Okay, so I just put some cool new lights on because I threw away my ring light, like, I don't know, like 2 months ago before we moved, because honestly, I needed to replace it. And I kind of knew that I wasn't gonna replace it right away, so it's been a while. But I have some grow lights, so that's what this ambiance is. Some red and blue. They only shine either red or blue, or a combination of the two. So we've got the combination on. So there's a nice little purple, like fuchsia hue going on here. I actually really like it, because before the lighting was just like, it wasn't suiting my fancy. So we're gonna get started. Where do we want to get started? We're gonna get started on a topic that I've been wanting to like come on here to talk about. I posted on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, last week. I posted on Facebook last week that I was gonna record a video about a very specific subject. So that's what we're doing. And then of course we'll probably talk about other things too, because as you've probably learned about me by now, is that I can really talk for as long as I'm permitted to. And since this is my channel, I get to give myself permission to talk as long as I want. Granted, I do try my best to keep the videos under 30 minutes. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I do not. For anyone who's new here, welcome. My name is Morgan. I'm stoked to be here with you. This is my vlog channel where I just come on here and talk in the moment about whatever is coming up for me presently. So occasionally I do have like a little bit of an agenda of just like a subject that I know that I've been wanting to talk about. And that's what's happening today. Actually, usually, anytime I know I'm about to go into something, if I just give myself like 10 minutes to prepare my energy and like settle in and ground into the space, whatever space it might be, some kind of inspiration will come to me. And that's pretty incredible. I think it's a gift. I'm grateful to have it. I think the last video I recorded was about like energy exchange, and the one prior to that was called Realtalk. Ultimately, it's all real talk because I tend to keep it pretty real. Now that I've done a little bit of an introduction for this video, let's go ahead and get started. I'm a little bit awkward because I'm a little bit tired. Let me actually just introduce you to how I am today. This morning and for the rest of the week, I'm teaching a yoga class for like a business conference, I guess, for this like remote tech company. I think they're like in the medical tech field. So I'm going to this resort at like 6 in the morning to teach like a sunrise yoga class. So I did that today. And then I babysat today, working with a kid. He's not 2 yet. So he's like coming into his incredible 2s. Kind of rewrite the narrative there. He's a super sweet kid, super intelligent. We're able to connect, you know. And also kids, they kind of just can make you tired because they just keep going. And when it's time to rest, they tend to resist it, which I remember doing as a kid. Like, I think I stopped taking naps. I don't even know how old I was because I don't remember taking naps, when I was like 5. I probably was still taking them when I was like 4, but I was like not a huge napper. And even now, like in moments where I could be taking a nap, I tend not to. Naps are great though. Like when I do take naps, I'm always really happy I did. Sometimes you can oversleep a little bit and then you might feel even more tired. Clearly, sleep is on my mind because that's really all I can think about and therefore talk about. I'm probably gonna take a nap after this. I was gonna take a nap before, but then I felt like I was procrastinating, and then I was gonna like procrastinate on recording the video and taking a nap, so I was like, just record your video and then you could take a nap after, because tonight I also am leading a yoga nidra and sound healing. I do that every Tuesday evening at the studio that I work at. It's a yoga spa. So my day's not over. We're more than halfway through. Also, I really never leave my house before like 7 o'clock in the morning, really like ever. So I wear contact lenses. I wear glasses too, but mostly I wear contact lenses. And I just totally forgot to put them in this morning on my way to teach yoga. So I was like driving and I was like, oh, can't really see, but I can see well enough. So we just kept driving. Also, if you hear me refer to me as we, it's fine. Because I'm like, there's a lot going on here. And I love it. So here we are. Welcome. Okay, let's actually get started. Okay, so I posted on Facebook like a week ago that I was gonna record a video about menstruation, which before I started my most recent bleed, I started to record a video. I was 10 times more tired then. We just didn't do it. I think I recorded for 15 minutes or less. And then my phone did something and I just didn't feel like pushing past the resistance. I was just pre-mooning. So I finished bleeding a couple days ago. When? Yeah, 4 or 5 days ago. And my bleed, this is the most I have bled in one cycle in years. I'm gonna say probably years. So where do we start with this topic? Because I already started talking about blood. What I really wanted to talk about was my diet. Not my diet, I am on a diet to change my body. If anything, I'm on a diet to heal my hormones. And I was vegan for years, a couple of years. And in the moments where I wasn't vegan, I was still very, very strongly plant-based in what I was eating. I feel like I'm yelling, but it's okay. You're gonna be able to hear me, even if your volume's on low, hopefully. I think that the sound quality is all right. I don't have a microphone yet. Anyways, so I was vegan, I was plant-based for years. And, I did the raw vegan thing. I did a sattvic diet, which is a Ayurvedic approach to food. Basically making sure that everything that I was eating isn't overstimulating any form of acidity, basically. So things onion and garlic and cheeses and a few other things. I wasn't eating. I was starch-free for a while. Was not eating any breads, no rices, no potatoes. I would do some like complex carbs, meaning like sweet potatoes and carrots and bananas. And I just, I think what I was doing, I know what I was doing. I was doing somewhat of like a purification process, because I haven't really talked too much about this yet. But like what we eat is really, really important. And a lot of what most of us are brought up eating in, like the Western world, in America, in like the average income household, it's just a lot of really processed foods. And even the whole foods that we might be eating are most likely just filled with pesticides and carcinogens and chemicals that are just really pretty bad for us in all kinds of ways. So, this is the kind of food that I was brought up on. And when I was like 18, 19, when I started my journey, part of the initial starting point was going vegan, going plant-based. And I also went basically completely organic. So everything that I was eating was, for the most part, just like moving through my system real easy, helping me detox from, the first 19 years of my life eating mostly toxic foods. And so, I did this kind of like purification process. And it did a lot for me. It was very beneficial. It helped clear me out from the inside. And then I, also did a lot of what's called intermittent fasting. If you're not familiar with intermittent fasting, it can be a really great tool. However, in my experience, it's definitely something that still needs to be used in moderation. Because I participated in intermittent fasting for like at least 2 years, pretty regularly. In intermittent fasting, you're eating every day, and you're just eating in like an 8-hour window. So before the 8 hours you don't eat, and after the 8 hours you don't eat. And again, really great to just kind of like clear the system out. So I kind of was like layering these cleansing consumption styles. And after, a solid 5 years, I was completely depleted. And I didn't really actually realize that until this year, when I decided that I wanted to gain some weight. I wanted to gain at least 10 pounds. And then I gained the 10 pounds, and then I was like, let me keep going. So I gained, this year alone, I've gained about 20 pounds, give or no, really take maybe 15 to 20 pounds is what I've gained this year. And in order to do that, I had to completely change the way I was eating. And it took a few months for my body to get used to. First of all, I think I definitely doubled my caloric intake. We'll like rewind a little bit before I go all the way into this. I also struggled, I've been recovering. I would say at this point I'm fully recovered, but it definitely took a few years, which being plant-based was like part of the recovery process for me. I was really exploring my most ideal and healthy relationship to food, and it was a trial and error. So I had like anorexic bulimia from about 13 to 18. And even before that, I wasn't like a huge eater. Granted, when I was a competitive gymnast, I could eat so much food, but like I really never enjoyed breakfast that much. And because I usually would skip breakfast or have it was called instant breakfast. It was like these packets of like chocolatey supposed to be nutrients, and you just like pour the packet in your milk, and you're supposed to have like a solid amount of like vitamins and minerals and protein to at least get your day started. This is actually a really complex topic because it's more than just menstruation. We're really talking about food a lot here, and the ways that food affects the body. So maybe I'll save some of these like more detailed pieces for a video that's on food specifically, because otherwise I'll just like wormhole like crazy. And then this video will be like an hour, and my phone would probably run out of storage, and then I would feel defeated, and we don't want any of that. So I guess if I were to choose like a point of this message that I don't think I've really completed portraying, but maybe you're waiting to hear like what the point is. The point is, if there is a point, that, you know, there's not really a one size fits all. This is the best way to eat. There could be a relative generalization, and also because we all have like different blood types, and there's so many variables in our genetic composition individually, that what is needed for each individual person to keep their hormones balanced, to keep, you know, their minerals balanced, and all of that kind of stuff. We all really want to be eating as intuitively as possible. And I think it was in my very first vlog that I uploaded a couple months ago here, where I talked about, you know, listening to your intuition. And that might not be as easily done as it is said, especially in the beginning. So easy ways to start is as simple as like, when your body asks you for water, go drink some water. If you're feeling low energy, like actually close your eyes, maybe put a hand on your body, maybe put one hand on your heart, one on your belly, and just literally ask your body, like, okay, what do you want right now? And it could tell you it wants rest, it could tell you it wants water, it could tell you it wants a salad or a steak or whatever it is. And that's really one of the best things that we could be doing for our bodies, for our overall health. And it took me a couple of years to like really lock into this, because, you know, I care so much about the well-being of our planet and all the beautiful species on this planet. A lot of my lifestyle is based in like Hindu traditions, and so as far as like cows go, I have a lot of reverence for cows. I think that they're just incredible, beautiful beasts, creatures. And also I recognize that there could be parts of them that, if we consume them as people, can be incredibly healing. Like milk alone, it can heal the skin drastically. Now it could also damage the skin, and that could either be because of whatever your genetic composition is, or because of the quality of the milk itself. And so, after years of being pretty much vegan, definitely plant-based, I started to reincorporate animal byproduct into my diet. I really started introducing it openly in the beginning of 2021, and then going into this year, 2022, really I don't necessarily regard like those numbers too much, but it just helps for reference and like time and space or whatever. I doubled my caloric intake, and I started eating meat on a pretty regular basis. I would say, you know, it started out like twice a week I was eating meat. And when I eat meat, I really am, for the most part, just eating light meat, like chicken and fish. And then I gradually started to incorporate it into my meals almost daily, but not every day. And so this is kind of like going back to that intuitive approach. You know, I really give myself the opportunity to check in with my body each day and be like, okay, do you want some meat today? And some days it really doesn't. And so I obviously don't eat it on the days where it doesn't. And on the days where it does, I'm eating it. You know, for a while it was having this like guilty craving for meat, and I was like, oh no, you can't do that. And then I was like, Morgan, your body literally keeps asking you for some meat. Maybe you just let it have the meat and see what that might do for you. Okay, so I'm gonna reel back to menstruation a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and like marry the subjects, I guess, if they haven't already been. So, for the last probably like 2 years, my bleed, as in my period, my menstruation, I also like to call it my moon, I would say on average, I was bleeding, maybe 1.5 ounces of blood over like a 3-day span. And it started to become pretty alarming. And about 5 months into that, I like hit a wall energetically, and I was just in chronic fatigue. And I really didn't know, because I was stifling the instinct for my body to have meat, and I had been ignoring that and pushing it down for so long that it wasn't the first thing that I really considered when I was trying to figure out what was going on. And there was a few other symptoms that I was experiencing, and just like all of them combined, I was like, I am not in optimal health. What can I do? What can I change? How deeply can I listen to my body to find out what it's wanting or what it's not wanting? And ultimately, I just kept coming back to meat. My body was like, please let me have some meat. And I was like, okay, let's just do it. So, as I mentioned, I started to reincorporate meat. Last year, it was really not that much. It was just like me being open to the idea of it and occasionally eating it if someone like cooked a meal and there was meat inside of it. And that is like questionable for me, because the meat that I purchase for myself is always organic, free range, antibiotic free, all that kind of stuff. And I know that that's not a priority for too many other people. I think it's becoming more of a priority for people. And for years, I've been advocating to people, like, if you are wanting to clean up your diet and you like feel the pressure to go plant-based, but it doesn't feel right for you, just go organic. Go as organic as you possibly can. And when I say go organic, I mean like do your research on who's distributing the products, who's certifying the products as organic, because that matters a lot. And if you do a little bit of research into different certification brands or companies that certify foods as organic, some have like really rigorous testing processes to make sure that the soil that the food is growing in is truly clean and nutrient dense, whereas other companies are not. They're just taking the pay and giving the label. So you want to know which is which. And then you'll become familiar with these companies and brands and distribution companies to kind of have a good idea of like who has a reputable background and the authenticity of the quality that they're claiming. So it took about, so we are in September, and I started to really include meat into my diet probably in January. I would say around March was when I started to intake meat, probably around 4 days a week. And just all of what I was taking in, because, I grew up with, pretty unhealthy eating habits, from like starving myself and throwing my food up and just not wanting to eat. And then going into being like completely plant-based and intermittent fasting, like my nutrients were just running lower and lower and lower, because I had never really had a solid foundation of nutrients to begin with, except for maybe when I was like an infant and I was drinking my mom's milk. And even then, I'm sure she probably wasn't eating like the healthiest foods. So some of what she was eating was, coming into me through her breast milk and all of that. That's the case for all of us. Not harping on my mom at all. My mother is an incredible woman. My parents are incredible. I'm so grateful for them. They've done their best, and I think they have done amazing, especially bringing me up to be the woman that I am. I needed to create, though, for myself, a solid foundation of nutrients, and that meant literally doubling, almost tripling my food intake on a daily basis. The first couple months was basically like force feeding myself, because my stomach was not used to it. I remember so many times my body was like, can we stop? And I was like, no, we're gonna keep going. And I kind of started to come to the conclusion that I probably was really low in iron, which was probably a huge factor in my menstruation. And again, there was some other symptoms that I was experiencing that just really recently, like in the last couple months, I was like, whoa, I probably have an iron deficiency along with many other mineral deficiencies. Maybe not all that much, because I have been taking in really, really high quality foods over the last few years, just not like the right amount daily. I probably was intaking on average no more than 1,200 calories a day for years. Like, I'm gonna say at least 10 years. That's just not enough. So no matter how high quality my food was, it was not enough to supplement the lack of nutrients that I was coming from. So 9 months in to this year, we're in month 10, we're in October. Woo! Pretty exciting, also really crazy, time is flying. But finally, I had the most regular bleed that I've had in years. I really hope this is interesting for you all. If it's not, I don't know. Let me know what you want me to talk about, and I'll do my best to incorporate your requests in my videos. But I feel like this is important to just hear about someone's experience of, wanting to be plant-based for many reasons, for my health, for the health of the planet, and then just really recognizing that although there might be like even more societal pressure to go vegan and eat all these like new trendy plant-based products that are actually, some of them are terrible for you, that just because you feel that pressure from society doesn't mean that it's necessarily right for you. And just because something is right for you for, a couple months or maybe even a year or 2 years doesn't mean that it is like permanently right for you, because our bodies are going to just continue to constantly evolve, and we want to be able to listen through those changes. So yeah, this last bleed that I had, on the first day, bled probably 2 ounces. So we're already in day 1. I've already bled more than I had bled over 3 days. And my bleed also continued on to a full 4 to 5 days, because really the last 2 days was mostly spotting. But I was just happy to be spotting on days 4 and 5 because I hadn't had a day 4 and 5 in years. And again, this might be kind of like an odd topic. A lot of women and people don't talk about menstruation in an enjoyable way, really. However, first of all, even when I was in high school, I was always so happy to bleed because I was having a lot of sex. And anytime I bled, I was like, yes, not pregnant. So I've always had just like a really significant appreciation for my bleed. And I've continued to explore that appreciation and even deepen it as I have tended to my hormones and recognize that my hormonal health is one of the most important factors in my overall well-being. And it's really not something that I was taught anything about. I've been really, really blessed to have an incredible community of women in my life that are just like from all around the world. And a large portion of them have gone to school and studied hormonal health for women most specifically. I have been kind of like putting my feelers out to find some men who have been studying male hormone cycles. I've studied a little bit about them just because I figure it's important for me to understand, especially if I want men to understand like my hormonal cycles, you know, to reciprocate that understanding for their hormonal cycles. Just feels kind of like a no-brainer to me. So yeah, I feel like that's pretty much it. We're already at 32 minutes. Time flies when I'm talking. I feel like this was pretty concise. The overall message was, after years of being vegan, I finally started eating meat again, and my vitality is increasing. My hormonal health is increasing. My fatigue levels are decreasing, and I still have so much appreciation for the beautiful animals that are on this planet, and probably even more so appreciation for the ones that I'm able to eat and that provide my body like significant nutrients and nourishment. So yeah, your girl is like just ready to get some cows and churn her own butter and make some cheese and have some grains growing and make my own flowers and just live in abundance with the land, because we can do that and it's pretty easy if we let it be. Just want to like really quick sprinkle on some real talk about like, if you haven't already gotten the wake up call to prioritize our natural world, maybe this can be your wake up call. You know, immediate gratification through keeping up with social trends is not as fulfilling as the brain keeps trying to make us think it is, mostly because it feels the pressure of society and all that stuff. So really, if you can prioritize, you know, minimizing your consumption of unnecessary material goods and like throwaway items, and recognizing that you know, quantity is not always the most important, but really quality is the most important. And I won't harp on all that stuff too much, but just be mindful, be wise. This planet is definitely calling out to those of us who are listening. So if you're listening to this planet, if you're listening to the natural world at all, remember you are a part of it, and we really got to start working with nature a lot more and honoring nature a lot more socially, as a collective, as a whole, globally, because that's just really our best bet, our best option at this point. I hope that you are having a beautiful day. If you are feeling all kinds of waves of emotions and thought patterns and all that kind of stuff, know that it is pretty normal. There's a lot to be felt. There's a lot to think over even. So just be easy on yourself if you're feeling weighed down at all. And if you're feeling enlivened, feel free to share that energy. We're in this together, all of us. So we balance each other out as we continue to ebb and flow. And your authenticity and your light and your expression remains important to be seen and felt and heard by the world around you. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the comment section. Feel free to like the video, subscribe to my channel, share the video with any friends. It's pretty easy because I'm just sitting here and you actually don't have to watch, you can just listen. And I keep kind of daydreaming about video editing, so maybe in the near future I'll start toying around with that a little bit. In the meantime, I'll talk to you next time. Okay?